So at the end of every homeschool year, the educational powers that be, they want some type of document or some type of record that shows or outlines the progress your child made during their previous homeschool year.
Okay, let's go.
All right, they want to know how your child is progressing, what they worked on in areas of math and like literature studies or something like that. So like reading and writing, basically. They don't heavily care about science. They don't heavily care about history or recreational, extracurricular type things, but they want to know, how is your child progressing in like English, literature studies, language arts, and math. Okay. And so every year I work with the same evaluator. All right. You have to work with a specific type of person to evaluate your child. You know, I think it can't just be you. It has to be someone who meets certain criteria. All right. So you have to research that in your area, whatever state you live in. Just research, you know, like the criteria, the credentials for the end of the year evaluators or the evidence of progress evaluators. And so I work with the same person because I know that they have the credentials and because they are a part of my daughter's homeschool co-op. And so they get to see a lot of my daughter's progress already. And it's just a good situation, a good fit. So in this video, I'm basically just going to be telling y'all how I go about gathering all of the information from the school year in preparation for my daughter's end of the year evaluation. So that'll be helpful, especially for those of you guys who are considering homeschooling, or for those of you guys who are just trying to figure out how to prepare for the end of the year evaluations. You know, because I think that could be a blind spot. Like while you're in the thick of things throughout the school year, you may not always be thinking like, oh, I actually need to start tracking and monitoring some of this progress so that I can report it to the evaluator at the end of the year. And so I'm just going to share in this video what works for me. Glean from it what you will. You know what I'm saying? This is by no means the only way to do it. There are absolutely more rigid, more structured ways to gather information. But this is what works for me at this stage of my life. All right. So let me start off by saying this disclaimer. I actually don't do the best job gathering information throughout the school year. And most of that is because I am fully present within the school year doing the things, making sure we're doing homework, making sure we're submitting assignments, making sure we're going on field trip. So I don't also collect the information and the data and track and monitor in real time. All right. I spend a week or so at the end of the school year before the evaluation. I spend that time gathering information. Now, in my defense, what I do really well, you know, I may not be tracking and monitoring in real time, but what I do really well is I create systems so that at the end of the year, when I'm gathering that information, I can just go back and look through the system and quickly gather the information. So that's some of what I'm going to describe to you now, just some of the systems that I have in place that make it easy to gather information at the end of the year. All right. So before I talk about sort of the systems, let me just rewind a little bit and tell you what 3 components make up my daughter's like curriculum for the school year. Because I'm not one of those homeschool moms who went out and purchased an entire curriculum and worked diligently from the curriculum book. I swear I tried. I swear I tried. I looked into it. I wanted to find a curriculum that felt effortless and that felt like it worked. It was intuitive. I wanted to. I just could not. Every single piece of curriculum I found felt daunting to try to implement and to try to follow up with. And so we threw that out. All right. And so the 3 components that make up my daughter's like curriculum or like her education container are her co-op, her homeschool co-op classes, outschool.com, and just whatever we do at home that just it looked like it need to be done, we do those, like intuitively. Those are the 3 things that we kind of focus on or utilize to sort of like make up my daughter's curriculum. So let's start with the homeschool co-op. So my daughter and I, we're part of a cultural specific and intentional homeschool co-op full of Black and brown babies. Representation obviously is important in educational settings. We are part of a homeschool co-op that meets on Mondays and Wednesdays from 10 a.m. until 3 p.m. And the 10 to 3 includes blocks of class time. So we got 1, 2, 3, 3 classes, lunch, like a community assembly type event, etc. Right? So that's on Mondays and Wednesdays. All right, and we meet from like September to May. All right, with several breaks in between. And so as a part of the homeschool co-op, those classes are taught by individuals, teachers who are heavily credentialed, skilled in their area of study, and are passionate about the population that we are creating there, the population of children that they work with, right? And so those individuals, they come into the co-op, they teach. Some of those individuals are parents. We ourselves are credentialed and skilled individuals in certain areas, and some of us do teach certain courses as a part of the homeschool co-op course load as well. And so there are homework assignments that may be given out. There may be reading assignments. There may be in-class things to do. And so that makes up a very good portion, like a third of what my daughter focuses on throughout her school year. All right. And so example of some of her classes may include, she had an African American history class. She's had math classes. She's had drumming, African drumming. She's had capoeira. She's had art. She has a range of classes, literature classes, which is chef's kiss, phenomenal. Plant workshops, plant types of workshops. And so the classes range, and the instructors are, they're skilled, all right? And so that makes up some of the information that I need to gather at the end of the school year comes from what did my daughter learn during those classes, and what was her progress in those classes, right? The other thing that I have to monitor that also makes up my daughter's, will supplement with outschool.com. Outschool.com also has teachers who are heavily steeped my daughter in their field of study. She utilizes heavily experienced, skilled, and they are sort of supplement. It's virtual her learning essentially. And so whatever she does not like currently my daughter's in a course that she will supplement a math course that is catching her out, like we were reviewing 3rd and 4th grade math, but then introducing 5th grade math. She's currently in the 4th, going into the 5th, so she's getting like ahead of her curriculum for next year. And so she's doing that with a teacher who meets with her and a group of other students online each week, assigns worksheets and online like game homework, and collects the homework as well. Like we actually have to submit the homework back to OutSchool, which I'll talk more about that when we talk about gathering information at the end of the year. But OutSchool is another part of my daughter's like curriculum that I have to kind of report on for the evaluator for the end of the year progress report. And so co-op classes, I got to report on that. OutSchool classes, we got to report the progress there. And then whatever we do at home, and at home is I basically reinforce whatever that she's learning in those 2 first areas, in those 2 spaces. I reinforce that. We might print off extra worksheets or just practice at home. But then also at home is whatever else I feel is important for her education. you know, whether that's more history studies, more science, more social skill development, handwriting, you know what I mean? Like whatever I deem as important that she's needing for that particular school year, that's what we work on at home, okay? And that's what I try to report on and keep record of so that I can report it to my evaluator at the end of the school year. All right, so those are the three: co-op, out school, home instruction, I think I should say. And so let's talk about, you know, since those are the three systems that we kind of gotta like track and monitor, let's talk about how I gather information. Because remember, throughout the year, I swear, I'm not just sitting there with a folder like compiling what my daughter has done in her classes and things like that. I'm talking to the teachers in real time. I'm making sure she's turning in her homework in real time, and I'm checking her progress with her homework in real time, but I'm not actually like gathering or tracking and monitoring during the school year. I kind of just, after the school year is over and I'm just like, after I'm just like, oh, I can't do another thing with school, then I take a few weeks, and before my end of the year progress thing is due, I then come back to life and say, okay, let's go back and gather some information. All right, and so let's talk a little bit about how I gather information at the end of the school year and what systems I've put in place throughout the school year that helps me with this. All right, so let's start with home instruction, because I feel like this might be the simplest, maybe. I don't know. Home instruction. So my daughter, one thing that I do consistently at home is I make sure that my daughter reads, whether the co-op or out school assigns her reading or books or whatever. Regardless of that, I make sure that she's reading, and a part of her requirement is that she has to read at least 10 pages each morning before she's even able to get on her tablet. Like, that's just a part of her morning routine. All right, so she has to, and so she can pick whatever book she wants. So she goes to the library with me, she picks whatever book she's interested in. Usually she's into chapter books now. That was something that she wanted to really get into, and so she's into chapter books now, really thick chapter books, non-fiction, fiction, depending. And so she chooses her book, and all she has to do is read 10 pages, and she can read more, but she needs to read at minimum 10 before she's able to get on her tablet each day. And so that's something that happens consistently. Now, I am not consistently tracking which book she's reading per se, but what I do at the end of the year is I go back and I gather a list of books that she's read so that I can report it to her evaluator. Now, after my daughter reads each book, when she's finished reading each book, one, she talks to me about it, she describes it to me, she explains to me the story, the plot, etc., which is very important to me, because I need to know that she's not just reading the words on the page, but that she's also reading the words and understanding what she's reading and connecting emotionally to what she's reading. So I get her to explain to me like what's happening throughout the story, etc., etc., and at the end she explains to me how it ended, etc., etc., how she felt about it. The other thing that I get my daughter to do is she always fills out a book review. All right, and the book reviews have changed as she's grown older. They've gotten a little bit more intense now, since we're working on paragraph writing. So now she's writing like paragraphs, but whether it's paragraphs or whether it's one sentence here and there, she reviews the book and she explains like who's the characters and what's the story plot and would you recommend it, etc., etc. And so I get her to fill out these reviews, right, these book reviews at the end of each book. And so at the end of the year, what I do, because I got her to do them book reviews, thank God for that, what I do at the end of the year is I go back and I find the pile of book reviews and I just go through and say, okay, I can see what book she's read, and I report them to the evaluator. I add that to a little document that I send to the evaluator. The other thing that I do as far as tracking her what she's reading is I look, because obviously she's checking these books out on her library card, so I sort of look through my records to see what books has she checked out on her library card. Now, funny thing, I thought that I would just be able to go and like click on her library account and see all the books that she's checked out, but apparently they don't just gather this information for you unless you ask them to. You click the right button, which I did not. And so what I ended up doing this year was I went to my email and I went to my email and I basically just searched like for the emails where they're like, bring my book back. you know how the libraries where like you had their book too long and like they need that book renewed or it's late or past due. They're like, bring my book back. They'll send you a little email and they don't say those exact words. I'm paraphrasing obviously, but I basically looked up all the bring my book back emails and I saw a list of all of the books that my daughter read for the year, because 10 times out of 10 we're gonna have that book longer than we supposed to. That's just what it is. Like, they always gonna have to send me a bring my book back email to remind me that we even got that book out. So I looked up all of those, compared it to my list, my book reviews, and figured out how many books my daughter read the past school year. And it looks like she read like anywhere between like 7 and 10 books, which was really excellent, mind you, because they're thick chapter books. So like I'm hella impressed. But that was a system that I put in place. Get her to fill out a book review after each read, and of course keep checking my email, the emails. Check out the books with her library card so that I can go back and track it. That's the system that I use. Highly recommend. And at the end of the year, you just gather the information. You know what your child has read. Let me see what else. There's not a lot of other things I track and monitor at home. She has a notebook. Anything we do at home goes in the notebook, so I can essentially just look through the notebook. That's the tracking system there. Just look through the notebook. So that's at home. Now let's talk about OutSchool, because I think this is like the easiest and best system ever. So OutSchool does all the things for you. You literally don't have to go back and track anything, for real, because OutSchool will keep a transcript. They'll keep a transcript of all the classes that you took, what month, year it was. Each class, if you click on it, has a full description, has an outline even of like what they're learning on what days, like the topics they're learning. OutSchool, each class also has a place for assignments, also has a place for lessons. So you can see the actual lessons, you can actually see the assignments that you submitted. So for example, my daughter is doing the math, I was telling you guys, 3rd to 5th grade math, and each week the teacher assigns worksheets and assignments, and the worksheets that my daughter completes, we print them, she completes them, I then scan them back in. Those are available. And so what I was able to do at the end of the year, when my evaluator was asking about her math and how she's doing and how her handwriting is doing and things like that, I was able to go to OutSchool, go to some classes, print off the homework so that the evaluator could see handwriting, progress with math, spacing, like whatever the evaluator was looking for, the evaluator was able to sort of see a physical representation in addition to hear me describe it. All right, and so that I feel is extremely helpful. Like OutSchool, having a system where, even if it's not OutSchool, if it's any online platform that you're utilizing that your child is clicking and logging into consistently, then there should be some type of way to gauge the progress. They should have some type of metric system there. They should have some type of evaluation. They should have some type of overview, or you should be able to, like OutSchool, go in and see each thing. All right, and so highly recommend having at least one system like that, that can gather information for you, and you just kind of got to go and click some buttons really quickly and receive the report. I think that's important. The other thing that I do with the co-op, let's say the co-op. The co-op is, like I said, I'm not tracking and monitoring a lot there. But what I do is I keep track of the classes that my daughter has with each semester, because the classes change. I do keep track of the name of the classes and which semester she had them. And that is because, like I said, my evaluator, which I'm blessed, this is not going to be necessarily your situation. My evaluator is a part of the co-op, is the visionary of the co-op, really. But she is able to, like, if I say my daughter took these classes, she has access to the class outlines. She knows exactly what the teachers were working on in the class. In some regards, she was in the class. She was able to witness my daughter firsthand, you know what I'm saying, be able to like have firsthand like experience with how my daughter's progressing, the highs and lows, the challenges my daughter is navigating. And so that is kind of, I didn't have to gather a whole lot of information there. The most that I gathered at the end of the year was which classes my daughter took, which classes she took, and if some of those classes had books that they read, I included that in the book list. And I just said, co-op book. All right. that's it, y'all. Like, that's literally it. Like, the co-op, let me just say this disclaimer. The co-op does have a online platform. We use Dream Class, right? But a lot of the teachers are not quite, like, they don't use it like rigidly, you know, they use it loosely. And so it's not like we have to upload homework and things like that, because the co-op doesn't always give, every teacher doesn't give homework assignments. It's very like casual, you know, like it's we're structured but also not rigid, and so it's like it's a chill kind of vibe, right? And so we have a system that we could essentially use to gather information, but we don't technically use it yet. Okay, and so a lot of what I do with the co-op is really just identifying what classes she has and remembering what she was going through in each class as much as I can. And that's it, y'all. Like, that's literally it. That's what I do. I do not stress myself about it. My evaluator is very awesome at helping me to like put things into perspective. She's always like, listen, I don't even know if these people, these powers that be, are even reading these documents, but we're gonna still do our due diligence and make sure we've reported it should they decide to take a peek, and we want to make sure all of our ducks are in a row. But she's like, she helps me to just like relax and just let me know that like it don't have to be, it's no red pen coming for you to overly mark, you know, your progress per se. They just want to know what progress the child is making, what they're working on, to have a general understanding of how they are progressing throughout their studies, you know. And so I'm very relaxed. You should never told me that, because I'm like, oh, they don't care, I don't care. Like, I'm gonna care as much as I naturally care, which is a lot, but not as much as I would care if they were actually looking. I would care like way more. But that's what I do, y'all. It's nothing super like rigid. Like, is chill. It's chill. And if for some reason my daughter neglected to do a book review, I'd be like, oh well, you neglected to do it. And that's it. That's the end of the conversation. You know, I'll just put the little book on the book list. You read the book, you know, and that's it. That's it. Like, I'm not very rigid. I gather as much information as I need to, and that's it. I report what I know, you know. And so for those of you guys who are homeschooling, just be mindful that, you know, you will have to have some type of system of reporting or gathering, tracking, monitoring, however you want to describe it. You will have to have some type of system, and don't stress yourself out about the system. Come up with a system, and if you feel like, ooh, we're really not doing really well tracking and monitoring their progress, okay, well then work with someone to come up with a system that fits you, that's doable for you and sustainable for you. You can learn how to create a system for sure, but don't stress yourself about it. Okay, don't stress yourself about it. Hopefully this was helpful. In the next few videos, I'm going to be talking about preparing for the upcoming school year. This end of the year evaluation is how it's the culmination of the school year. So once I gather all the documents, complete the end of the year evaluation with my evaluator, then in my state, we have until August 1st. Like, August 1st is the deadline to submit our evidence of progress evaluations. And so that's next week sometime. And so once I submit that means that I have finished with last year. I submit that via email because I like to get timestamps and I like to have electronic proof that I turned it in, you know. So I always submit my end of the year evaluations, evidence of progress evaluations via email to the assigned persons. And then at that same time, I submit the intent to homeschool for the upcoming year, because you need to let them know for the upcoming year that you intend to homeschool the child, so that they're not looking for that child on a school's roster. And if they don't see them on the roster, then truancy police, you know, they're gonna call them people. Okay. So I always let them know. At the same time, I let them know the evidence of progress from the past year. I'll say also at the same time, we are intending to homeschool her for the upcoming 2025-2026 year, basically. So hopefully this was helpful. See you guys in some future videos. I'm going to do a video on how I decide what supplies to get. I'm going to actually go supply shopping. And I got some other stuff. Oh, I got to figure out like the scheduling and things like that. Schedule with me. So just stick around. I'm going to do a few homeschooling videos to see if that's helpful for anybody out there who may be considering this as a way of life. All right, ask all the questions in the comments. I will do my best to answer them.